The goal of me making all of these videos is to grow in love, okay? It's important to remember that that is the goal. Grow in love and develop a relationship with the Creator. You don't have to develop a relationship with the Creator to grow in love. And I know a lot of people are turned off by God, and I'll do more videos about that in the future. But for the purposes of right now, we know that through humility and truth, we have access to the Creator's love, okay? Humility, of course, is the passionate desire to accept and feel out all of our own emotions. And when I say truth, I mean the truth from the Creator's perspective, not my personal truth or your personal truth. And actually, that makes it easy because there's no need to argue, because if you're engaging with someone and there's a disagreement, rather than compromise, both of you can ask God and come to the most loving conclusion simultaneously and separately. So here we're going to talk about the consequences of truth-telling, because for this process to work, you're going to have to tell the truth all the time. All the time. Telling the truth will have a variety of consequences. And we're going to go through them here, and then I'm going to share some personal experiences about how telling the truth has affected my life, both in positive and negative ways. Okay, so first, telling the truth, the consequences of telling the truth are that it is exhilarating and fun. Next, you will attract error. It reveals your own anger and fear. Remember, these are suppressed emotions inside of ourselves that we don't even want to admit that we have. It will affect your relationships with your family, friends, coworkers, neighbors. It absolutely will affect your relationships with those people. You have the ability to induce emotional experiences from telling the truth. And that's really how we release emotion, is by inducing emotional experiences, by expressing humility and allowing ourselves to feel out the stuff that wants to come out of us. We build courage. Every time you successfully tell the truth, you build courage. You do it again, you build a little bit more, right? And that process allows you to be able to express yourself in more truthful ways and more completely truthful ways as you go forward. Like, you can start small when you start telling the truth. I used the example in a previous video, like, hey, if you're at the grocery store or you're at a coffee shop or something like that and you're checking out and the person asks you how you're doing and you say good, if you're not good, you're lying. You're not telling the truth. Now, you don't have to give them a whole diatribe or a whole soliloquy about how you're feeling and why you're feeling it. You can if they ask, but you could say like, oh, I feel terrible today, or, you know, I'm really upset at whatever reason, or I had a bad dream last night, or whatever. It's also in their free will to not respond. So again, I'm not trying to say hold service workers hostage with your own emotional state. I'm saying start small, tell the truth, build some courage. Then it allows you to confront larger obstacles that the law of attraction will bring to you. And finally, it will strengthen your relationship with the Creator. God loves when we tell the truth. He smiles on us when we tell the truth. I mean, you think about it. When we start telling the truth, we are promoting God's point of view. Pretty cool, right? You know, a lot of people talk about like God's will and this and that and, you know, whatever else, you know. God would like us to tell the truth. How about that? Pretty simple, right? Seemingly. But let's go through it and see if it's so simple. First thing is it is exhilarating and fun. You know, you will potentially have excellent experiences and conversations when you start telling the truth with people. You never know how a person is going to react when you say something truthful. So like, sometimes it can be a person's asking you what's on your mind. And like, maybe you're thinking about that YouTube video where you saw an electrician replicate one of Nikola Tesla's experiments using static electricity rather than electric current, which is what we currently use as an infrastructure in our country, and showing how you can start a system with a little bit of energy, and then by adding electromagnets on your generators, you can create huge amounts of energy by tapping into electromagnetic forces that just exist in the air. Like, how cool of a concept is that? That's essentially free energy. What a wonderful topic to discuss with somebody, right? If you follow your passions and desires and you're telling the truth about it, you're going to make friends. It's pretty cool. Try it out. Okay? You will also attract error. If you're attempting to live in truth, then it's going to be the law of attraction of other people who are in deep denial about the error that they're in to hear the truth from somebody. And if you are the person that's there, well, guess what? It's going to be you. So how that person reacts, maybe they react in anger. Are you prepared to handle that? It will definitely affect your relationships with people. Definitely. So I'll share a quick story regarding my own family and telling the truth. So one Thanksgiving, I was sitting across from an aunt of mine, an aunt by marriage, and she was looking directly at me and talking about how immigrants from Central America are coming to the United States and getting paid and essentially ruining our country. Now, this person is an educator, and my uncle, her husband, is a formerly very high-ranking government official. These are not stupid people. These are highly intellectual people. And my uncle majored in history, so he has a really wide breadth of understanding about the various geopolitical forces that have that have created situations that the world is in the shape that it's in now. Okay? Now, my aunt expresses her hateful view to the entire table, but is looking directly at me. Well, I responded that I disagree with you. And she was shocked. And she said, "Excuse me?" And I said, "I disagree with you." I was not projecting anger at her, and I was not even telling her why I disagreed with her because she didn't ask me to. But in this moment, when she is spouting what I feel is an error, it is my duty to defend truth and just let everyone know that, hey, like, everyone else can agree with this, but, like, I do not agree with this. So, a few weeks later, I get a phone call from my uncle, whom had previously invited me to Christmas dinner at his house. Okay? And he basically told me that he wanted me to filter myself. And I told him I did not know what that meant. Whose definition of filter? And he accused me of saying things on purpose to create friction in a particular situation. And I asked him if he could provide me an example of such a time when I did that. And he referenced when I disagreed with my aunt. Now imagine that me just expressing that I do not agree with some opinion is perceived by my aunt and uncle as that I'm going out of my way to make life uncomfortable for them. They're in heavy addiction because I'm not meeting their worldview. Now, my uncle did not say anything to me at the table when this happened. But yet on the phone, in private, after he had been probably berated by his wife, he is now telling me that I would like you to come to my house and eat dinner and be around people, but I don't want you to express yourself. Well, that's non-loving. It would be more loving and truthful and honest for him to say, you know what, I would just rather you not come at all. Because that's how he felt. Actually, that's not how he felt. That's how his wife felt. And he was expressing his wife's feeling, okay? So I told him, I said, you know, you are afraid of your wife. She intimidates you. And you fear her. And I do not fear your wife. I can tell the truth to your wife. And it is actually totally, and I said this to him, I said it's totally non-loving of you to ask me to filter myself. Because you're essentially saying that I need to change who I am to meet the addictions of her extended family. Why? Maybe it's because they're full of false beliefs and error, and they do not want to have their constructed reality challenged. So, needless to say, I did not attend Christmas dinner. I'm okay with that, okay? Now, has my relationship with my uncle been affected? Oh yeah, absolutely, okay? Now, did I project anger at my uncle during some of these interactions, especially on the phone? Absolutely, absolutely. So that's where this comes into place, okay? So it will reveal your own anger and fear. So as I'm having this discussion, I can feel myself full of charge, okay? It's about having fear of telling the truth to my family, having fear of telling the truth to a man, having fear of telling the truth to a person that's older than me, having fear of telling the truth to a caretaker when I was young, you know, on and on and on and on. It could be any of these things or any conglomeration of these things that works together via our law of attraction to present ourselves a situation in the physical world that allows us the opportunity to deal with our emotions. So I have been feeling out my anger, and while I still do have some anger related to my mother's side of my family, I recognize that that's on me to feel out. Now, have my uncles contacted me since then? No. Do I expect them to? No. Like, you know, the only reason why, part of the reason why he invited me over for Christmas dinner is because he felt he had an obligation. Like, okay, we're family, so therefore, like, I have to invite all of my family, you know, to dinner. Now, this particular side of my family is rather small, so there's not many of us, so it's pretty obvious when someone isn't there. Well, again, that's something that he's got to work out, okay? He should challenge his own beliefs about what is loving and what's not loving. Like, if I don't show up, who cares, right? You really don't interact with me anyway in the rest of the year, so what does it matter if we don't interact on the so-called holidays? That being said, I would love to have a wonderful relationship with both my uncle and my aunt. However, I have to accept that by telling the truth, I may or probably will affect our relationship. Now, like, if I feel... Now, okay, so now our relationship is not great. What do? I can feel about that, you know? I can allow myself to feel hurt and feel abandoned by a person whom I respected and whom I had a high opinion of and whom I, you know, had all these ideas about, okay? I can feel about that, and I have felt about some of it, but there's more in there, but it goes deep and it exists in layers, okay? But that's just an example of how, you know, your relationships with people will change, okay? Now, in the case of your family are the ones that have given you most of your non-loving systems. What about friends? Friends didn't do anything to you, but what if you tell the truth and it harms your relationship with them, right? So an example is, I mentioned in earlier videos, I grew up in the Roman Catholic religion. Well, my feeling on Roman Catholicism is that it is a cult. And I'll probably do videos in the future expressing exactly how I've come to those conclusions. But that is the conclusion I've come to. Now, is it loving of me to tell my friends that they are in a cult? No. Not unless they ask me. Okay? So, if they want to stay in the cult and have children and force their beliefs onto their children, it's got nothing to do with me. And if that means that I spend less time with those people, then that's what it means, right? Because, like, let's say I go and visit my friend and they're telling me about their child and how their child's just been baptized. Well, I actually feel that baptism is a non-loving event, because you're taking away the child's free will and forcing your beliefs onto them. And someone may say, like, well, that's ridiculous. That's what would be the loving thing in that situation? Well, I feel the loving thing would be raise the child and share your faith with them, as well as acknowledge that other ideas exist, as well as acknowledge that there's really, like, no one really knows for sure, right, about everything, and allow the child to make their own decisions when they start to enact their own free will. If you are in a religion and you are acting in a loving way, then you are your own walking billboard for why that thing is excellent. Right? But that's not how we do it. We force our beliefs onto our children. And oftentimes parents condition the children to fear them. So, like, my Earth mother no longer has a physical body. So when I'm sitting at Thanksgiving interacting with my uncle, I was not conditioned to fear him, nor was I conditioned to fear my aunt. I was conditioned to fear my own parents. So in that sense, it's actually much easier for me to tell the truth to these people, and it's much harder for, like, people whose physical parents are still around to tell the truth to them. But that is also part of building courage. The more you tell the truth, the larger your courage gets. And of course, the goal of all this is to strengthen your own relationship with the Creator. Okay? So when you're talking to the Creator and you ask the Creator, something or whatever that contradicts, you get an answer that contradicts what has been forced upon you by people that do not have a relationship with the Creator, you can know that they are in error and that you are in truth. And that really, we don't need any relationship. The only relationship we need is with the Creator being. I encourage you to experiment with this. It is exhilarating and fun, but it absolutely will affect your relationships. But if you go around telling the truth, be aware, okay, that you probably also have anger and fear in there too, right? Like, you're probably going to want to take enjoyment out of calling out people's errors. I still take pleasure out of calling out people's and society's errors. And I realize that is arrogant of me. That is something that I am actively working on. But by being honest about it and by telling the truth, I'll be able to get to the underlying emotion of why that is. Okay, friends. Good luck with this. Love and peace.